completely. I mean, I really like Generation Kill in that experience, but to do something that's completely different, both in terms of the character and kind of the tone of the show was great, definitely.
And as a fan of True Blood, who do you believe Sookie belongs with, Eric or Bill?
Lafayette, I would say.
Pam.
Pam. Oh,
Yeah.
Pam.
We all
Yeah,
belong with
sweet,
Pam.
yeah.
We all belong with Pam.
Don't we?
Sam, this season we meet your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Anything about when you were learning your character's backstory this season that sort of surprised you or maybe informed your performance in a different way?
Well, my parents are really sketchy, sort of itinerant, really poor. They're trouble. They're sort of big trouble. And yeah, I mean, you know, for Sam, it was he kind of finally decided that he wanted to go back and kind of see who he was, and seeing his parents is sort of like, you know, really sort of seeing who he really came from and who he really is. And there are actually a lot of surprises for Sam with him. I mean, he thinks he sort of gets them at the beginning, and thinks that he can kind of go and meet them and get a feel for them and leave, but that doesn't really work out. And there's some really big twists that are very kind of disturbing that happen, and don't want to get into that yet. But
Well, we have a question from Chris M, and he asks, why do you think Sam's relationships never work out? Do you think he'll ever find true love?
Gosh, yeah, it's been a tough month for Sam. It's weird. It's like 2 seasons is 1 month. You know, maybe he will. I think he probably will. Could take like 20 seasons, but you know.
Is it because no one is ever Sookie, you know, when it comes down to it?
You know, it could be that.
Is that what it is, Alan?
You know.
Well, I personally find that happy, functional relationships are great in life, but they get kind of boring on TV. You want to, and you know, especially if you think of this as a soap opera, which you said earlier, in which I sort of see that, you always want to throw trouble and difficulties and conflict at the characters. And then when they do experience some happiness, it ain't gonna last.
Yep.
You know, the time to get everybody happy is right before the very end of the series, I think.
Well, speaking of unhappiness, Ratina, God, they really put you through the ringer. And I've seen the first 3 episodes, and my God, where do you think she gets her will to live?
I think her childhood, I think just because she's had to grow up so fast, because she's had to take care of her mother, she sort of has had this survival technique. She's a survivor and a fighter, and she will do whatever she has to do to get by. And sometimes that gets in her way because she has these blinders on and she can't sometimes see what's right in front of her because she's so defensive. But yeah, I think she gets it from growing up so fast.
Rebecca B wanted me to ask you, how do you think Tara has evolved since season 1? Less angry, more crazy?
I don't know, she's kind of a little unstable right now, but I wouldn't say that she's more angry. I think we're kind of seeing her vulnerability come out, and a lot of her insecurities. And I think this season it's going to be interesting to see her journey as she sort of tries to find herself and find her feet, so to speak. It's been very challenging playing someone that is so up and down, but I think it's every actor's dream to have the meat that we have on this show. I think all of us get to really sink our teeth, for lack of a better phrase, into these roles. And I've loved doing that, and I've really enjoyed playing her.
It's like Greek tragedy sometimes, with a lot of humor and sex.
Nudity.
Yeah.
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 Still sounds like good tragedy. I was gonna say, how's that not? It still sounds like
Ryan, what is the craziest thing you've had to say or do as Jason?
I always like the line to Steve Nolan at the end, where I sort of say that heaven was inside his wife. That was it was rather nice after a whole season of build-up to end
a great moment.
to end our relationship with that. It was,
Do you ever have a moment of panic when you get the script each week and be like, my God, what are they going to ask me to do now?
I think we all have those moments. It's not necessarily panic, it's more like what have they got in store for us. I think every episode has at least 2 or 3, we tend to call them firsts as cast, things that have never been sort of seen or done before on television, or I've certainly never seen before. So you sort of brace yourself for those moments and then think, how in the world are we going to pull this off?
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we keep managing to do it. So it's yeah.
Matt B. wrote
Matty,
in.
yeah.
Matty, yeah. He was shocked to find out that you are Australian because your southern accent seems so authentic. And I wanted to ask you, was it hard to come up with
To be Australian?
to sort of have the southern
Pretty rough being
accent?
Australian, right?
Was it hard?
Was
No.
it, no, just came naturally. Are you good with
Well,
accents?
it's not quite naturally, but yeah, it comes.
Yeah. Did anyone have trouble with the southern accent?
I guess we should probably find out what they thought of our accent before we answer that question.
Well, I'm
Okay.
fortunate. I don't have to worry about it because
Yeah,
Eric
right.
is not from Shreveport. So.
I don't think anybody had trouble. I saw Ryan in a movie where he had a southern accent, and it was so
Flicka?
authentic, yeah, Flicka, that I thought, well, that guy's southern,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I met him, I found out he was from Australia. And then I was like, oh, whoa, okay, wow, but
I know I had a little bit of trouble only because all these people came on sort of before the show started, so I feel like they had a little prep time. I came on as a guest star, so I had like 4 days or something like that from audition to film. I remember being very, very nervous about it and feeling like for that first season I was just making a couple of little ADR tweaks and things, but then over the hiatus before that second season, I really worked it out.
Did you know that you were going to be in the second season when you were cast?
Not when I was cast at first. I knew by the close of the first season.
Okay.
So I could start working on it at the end of that. But coming into it, I remember feeling very intimidated. I hope I pulled it off. I was like,
what I
"You're
find
wonderful."
more interesting is those of you who have to wear fangs, how do you talk with those fangs, especially
With a lisp.
when you have to say Sookie Stackhouse?
Well, what was it? Was it Pam? Kristen tells the story that her first line with the teeth in was something like, "You're certainly nothing like your sister," or something like that.
Oh, it's me, yes. Yeah.
Jason, you're certainly nothing like your sister.
Yeah.
It was-
Well, that brings me to a question from Elise B. She wants to know any Fang malfunctions that you can talk about? Or that you can't talk about, but that you will?
They break sometimes.
Yeah, we got hard and soft fangs, and my soft fangs are obviously for when you're biting people, because the hard ones are really hard. The hard ones are better. They're easier. I find them easier it's easier to talk with them, and they fit better. But the soft ones have a tendency to kind of break sometimes. So yeah.